Hi to everyone. This is V. Srinivas Rao, also known as VSR. I am the chairman and managing director for BT and BT, a lean digital consulting firm. And also I'm the chairman for Smart Cities Working Group under Institution of Engineering and Technologies, India. So today we are going to have a very interesting discussion, exiting the crisis, accelerating business transformation journey with multi-cloud. So this is something very much required today. So I have the esteemed panelist with me, very seasoned, experienced leaders in the technology space. Let me introduce Ayan Day, CTO, Exide Life Insurance. Narottam Sharma, Group CIO, Mastec. Vishal Sinha, CIO, Translease Holdings. Kushru M. Misri, CIO and Senior Vice President, Eureka Forbes.
Babita BP, CISO CSB Bank. Then we also have Subhajit Roy, Senior Vice President and CIO, SBI Mutual Fund.
And I have Aju Sebastian, Cloud Platform Leader from IBM India and South Asia. Today, if you look at the whole world is changing, especially the pandemic also changed the way we live and the way we work. So under that circumstances, I would like to start this session with a very interesting question. What are the major trends and shifts you observed in the business due to these various digital technologies? Of course, we have been hearing about these technologies for 1 decade, but today you have IoT, you have AR, VR, blockchain, whatnot, AI, ML, social, mobile analytics, cloud. So what you see, how the businesses are changing, how all these technologies are impacting, especially in the era of fourth industrial revolution and digital economy.
So there you can see there are various or many multi-factor, multi-dimensional shifts who's happening in the business due to the digital economy, and some of these changes or shifts or trends are very, very significant. And you must have noticed that there are close interaction or interdependency between the digital technologies and the business transformation or business changes which are happening. So I like to bifurcate these shifts or changes into broad categories or aspects. One is from the business side, okay? So business changes are actually, there are new business models are coming up, either in the terms of new startup companies, new ecosystem, or in the old legacy companies also. There are different business models are coming up, and accordingly, different business plans are coming up. Other significant change we are seeing in the company's culture, especially with respect to the legacy and old companies. So to drive the business transformation, to drive the digital transformation, company's culture, various aspects of cultures are changing as a whole in the employees' attitude and aptitude and the skills. And third and one of the most significant changes is the customer expectations and customer experiences. So these are actually ultimately everything is meant to be customer driven, customer focused, customer centricity. So we see a lot of changes in customer expectations and customer experiences along with the customer demographics changes. And the other major aspect of changes which are driving this digital transformation is the technology aspects, which obviously is the core foundation of every changes today. So here we are seeing huge changes in adoption and implementation of correct technology architecture and correct technology stacks across various platforms. Next, I would focus on the agility and flexibility and kind of technology which we are seeing. These are also definitely changing. And next, I would like to highlight the data-driven approach, okay? Because most of the companies, either old companies or new companies. So focus, every company is today data-driven. So data first approach is a huge change compared to a few years back. And the last but not the least is everything is run on a robust infrastructure, IT technology infrastructure to support the business in terms of business agility, growth, and the scaling up. So these are the major changes we are seeing. And if we compare these changes, if we look at the BFSI mutual fund company, which I represent, so these changes have seen significant changes in the digital or business transformation. So we have been early adopters of digital technology, which has resulted into adoption or creation of various channels for the customers or distributors. So we are able to offer end-to-end online transaction platforms to the distributors and the customers. And also we are able to engage the new generation of customers through various digital assets and platforms. So these have resulted in a significant business growth in terms of your growth as well as market penetration. So today the digital technologies have enabled us to have a large share of customer onboarding to digital platforms, more than 50% of customer sales, gross sales are happening to digital platforms. So ultimately this digital transformation, digital technology is helping the business transformation. So this is very, very relevant in today's context. And I find the cloud computing, various technologies of cloud computing are helping us this business transformation in various manners. Yeah, so again, if you look at, there are two aspects. One is the legacy old companies and the new startups company. So startup companies are much better off because they are digital native in terms of cloud computing data. So I represent a company which is now 30 years plus company. Here, really the change for this kind of companies, the change is happening, the data-driven data approach or data first kind of strategy. And you have to become digital native. So these are which were not earlier. So these are requiring transformation, right? And there are multiple factors. So we are seeing that people need to adapt to the digital economy. And for that, we are seeing business transformation, business reengineering, changes in business plan, business model, okay? So that you can have a complete control and visibility on end-to-end processes.
With that note, I would like to go to the next question to Vishal and Khushru. With this background, so we are talking about, if you really look at in the last 60 plus years, probably most of the technology folks, whether CIOs or technology services companies, focused on process automations. Maybe they are business processes, or if you are from manufacturing, then it is industrial processes. End of the day, they are process automations. But with these digital technologies today, the human emotions, the engagements are basically being managed with the technologies, systems of engagement. And the things are playing a very vital role, unlike in the past, which are very proprietary in the shop floors or some other places. Like today, the IoT has really, and internet, IPv6 has made. And the systems of intelligence where too much of data is available, people want an insight or foresight. With this, what do you think the change in the enterprise workloads? I mean, process automation is a small drop in the ocean in the past. The enterprise workloads were very minimal. We were able to manage with on-premise maybe 2012 for this, what and all. But today it's humongous, right? A lot of enterprise workloads are coming in. So I request Vishal and Khushru to share their thoughts on what this surge in the enterprise workloads and how cloud is playing a very vital role. COVID-19 has shifted anything in the priority?
Yes, actually, now the clear differentiation between business and technology has come into picture. If we see, every business was trying to convert their business into digital. I would say yes, majority of them actually moved to digital. But this pandemic situation, if you look at 2 years back and 2 years now, there's a significant change. It's not that every business was not ready with some disaster recovery plan or some business continuity plan, but the sizing and the scope was different. Maybe organization thought about 30% people would work from home, which got tripled during this period of time. So if you see 90-95% people working from home, the impact on workload was also, the kind of sizing the organization kept, that also got tripled. Especially when you talk about mobility services, when you talk about collaboration management or content management, or especially where the applications are on premises, or where the scale up and scale down kind of approaches are involved. So basically this situation or this environment actually forced the organizations to prioritize whether what kind of model they want to work with, whether they want a cloud environment where they need to, I mean, it all depends on their customer promise also. What kind of business resiliency is there? What kind of, I mean, do they want to have a disaster recovery plan? Do they want to be with the customers always? So I would say, although being digital, all the businesses are digital. They were forced to come into being digital at this point of time during this situation. But yes, the impact on workload is tremendous. It's going to increase. Not only workload, security also came into picture. Managing security, I mean, one workforce sitting in a different geographical location and one sitting in a different geographical location where threat vectors are coming, workloads definition also changed, because then you need to build up your the kind of infrastructure the organizations have built up. The whole idea of building such infrastructure is to extrapolate and leverage.
Mhm.
But during these times, what we saw is that most of the businesses, they prioritize their own business objectives, vision of on their own positioning, how they want to position themselves in front of their customers, their promise to their workforce, and retaining that business resiliency. So I would say that the impact is tremendous on the workload, and it's going to increase because this model of remote working is not going to go actually. It also acts as one way cost saving. Even when the situation improves, this is going to be partly. If you look at the other geographic locations outside India, this had been a practice even 25 years back. So we got forced into this because of the pandemic situation. But going forward, I feel this workload should be a benchmark. We should be prepared that these kind of situation, even if it doesn't occur, we should look at alternative models too.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Khushru, so if you take this context, whatever, so one is, of course, Vishal mentioned the remote workforce is going up, especially in the gig economy, when you don't have your internal skills. We are forced to now to utilize the expertise of others. If you look at Kaggle, there is a data scientist platform available. If I don't have my internal capabilities, I will use them. So more and more slowly we get into that gig economy. That's one important aspect, the workload perspective. The second is a lot of companies are using social media. Okay, and they are offering the services through so many channels like the wearable devices or car console or mobile. And then you have IoT devices which are really generating too much of data. So these are all the workloads which are really piling up on the companies. So what you see the difference in the last couple of years versus today? And Vishal mentioned COVID-19 also increased the workload. So can you share your thoughts on how this workload pattern is changing? Then only I think the multi-cloud will be justified or cloud will be justified really.
Thank you, VSR. The fact of the matter is that with the COVID-19 situation, what we have seen is that, and I think there is a fundamental and a cultural shift, which indicates that the business is the technology and the technology is the business. There's no differentiation which can be now heralded for the fact. The basic emphasis within this country, within India, is that the workforce is now gone into work from home. And that pattern is going to remain for a significant long time. And therefore, the context of continuity, resilience, flexibility, and agility becomes a significant factor. And the only way to do that is to a large extent from the cloud-based technologies. Because software as a service, SaaS, is becoming a predominant requirement. And I think the benefits of this are recognized even in today's day and age, which had we not been in a COVID situation, that would have taken about 5 years to come in. But right now, it's coming within 5 months, 6 months. The other part of it, which I think Vishal also touched upon, is the mobility, the collaboration. But the more important thing is video conferencing has become a very major part. And I think Some of the applicability of video conferencing has become a much more predominant factor within the COVID situation. Because people, when you provide services or hyper-personalized services, people want to talk to somebody, and that creates empathy. So if you're talking to a person face to face, even if it's video related, you're creating that empathy. And that creates what we call as the lifetime value with the customer. Because the customer wants to talk to you, and that has created the empathy. And I think that's where I would say the world is moving towards. It's remote, contactless environments, but at the same time creating the empathy of face to face. The other enterprise workload, which is definitely creating a lot of, I would say, where multi-cloud comes into picture, is on the data analytics portion. But at the same time, the cyber security and the security bubble needs to be created, because with India specifically bringing in the Data Protection Act, which is sort of equivalent to GDPR, I think it's going to become a very, very clear strategy that we need to protect the data. And the things which are happening in today's day and age, we have to be reticent of the fact. The Pegasus issue is definitely right now a hot topic, but the fact of the matter is data needs to be secured of the Indian customer, and the privacy needs to be provided. This is where the enterprise workflows are shifting. Cloud plays a very important part. I believe very strongly that multi-cloud is the key to the success of the future of this country.
If you consider the current pandemic, and if a country like India is not into the digitalization, what would have been our situation? Like if the banks are not having an internet banking or a mobile banking or anyway transaction is not possible. If such scenario has happened in such a situation, it would have been we cannot even think about such a situation. It is just because of the advancement in technology and banks foreseeing this, our government and RBI has taken necessary steps to promote digital banking and digitalization into the common public. Because of that only, even if today during this pandemic, people are not much affected to transact or do business. And here one people who are into digitalization is the one who is successful now also, and those who are not into, they are the one who has been affected the more. And because of that, and when the people started realizing it, now everyone is rushing towards the adoption of technology. It is also not that good, because when we are rushing, we might omit many things which might be relevant for us, but we would have been missed out during this rush. So in such scenario, definitely cloud solutions will help us, wherein it is test kind of environment can be tested, and if it is successful and it is as per our business requirement, it can be taken it forward. So definitely we have to go more into digitalization, and we have to accept it.
So I think you very well articulated what sort of the enterprise workloads are emerging and how the pandemic, you gave a very important example like video conferencing. And it's like now we are doing so many conference calls. It's not like from home actually, right? So, and it is increased. When we were in the office, probably physical meetings were there when we want to go and meet the customer. Today, even with customers and partners and suppliers, we are doing so many video conferencing calls, right? So certainly that is one. And data is becoming very, very important asset. Is there any rethinking required, especially in the cloud related strategy? So what sort of changes needs to be bring in as an enterprise, an organization on the cloud?
VSR, this is in fact now a very, very important question which the entire industry, I mean, across industries. So nothing to do with the current situation, the pandemic. It has been there for the last, I would say, 24 months. And across industries, we have been grappling, the CIOs, CTOs have been grappling with this question that what next? We have already moved to cloud, and we have already seen, we have already fought with 400 kg gorillas like AWS and Azure. What next? But then subsequently, we have started realizing that, we have to go much far beyond than what has been promised maybe 5 years back, when a huge silver lining was painted and it was told that it's going to be your solution for every single infra issue. You move lock, stock, and barrel to cloud, and a single cloud, and that was even accepted by the industry 5 years back. No more. Now multiple challenges have come up, and public cloud is not the only entity people are looking at. There are so many instances of private cloud being in place, and now there is a complete, I would say, matrix of on-prem, private, public, everything together. So now the next question is that how do you manage your resources and assets when they are lying all across? So that is something which the industry has to wake up to. In fact, people are now asking those questions, and people are looking for the single pane of glass where all of those things can be managed much more easily, because it is very easy. Cloud gives you that opportunity to quickly deploy something and then forget completely after that, and then it only becomes a matter of your accounts department which keeps on settling the bill, and the technology department is not even aware where the assets are lying, and you are running. And I'm talking about from my personal experience that this is exactly what we see across.
Correct.
But beyond this, beyond the basic, advantage that cloud provides, let's also talk about some of the technology specific questions. Like we have all seen what artificial intelligence is doing to industries. But in most of the occasions, I have seen artificial intelligence projects being only treated like a POC, and then they are scrapped out for multiple reasons. Do you have the capability? Does the cloud service provider give you the capability for getting the artificial intelligence engineering concepts baked into your DevOps scheme of things? So that is one critical question now industry is asking, because AI has to be taken along with the cloud adoption. Similarly, when you are on multi-cloud, do you really get the benefits of serverless technologies across? Because you are now handling development teams which have just come out of college for the last 5 years, and they demand serverless development. So does your multiple cloud strategy actually help answer serverless technologies? Number two. Number three is how easy it is for you to move your assets across from one cloud to another cloud if required, back to your on-premise infrastructure. Is it as easy as it was promised when you were sold the silver lining? So have you really gone there and checked for yourself? I think some of the panelists have also spoken about the security aspects. Does the cloud service provider give you facilities like bring your own keys? Do they really come up with the answers to some of these critical questions? I come from an industry, insurance, where a lot of computing is actually happening at the edge. You talk about IoT, you talk about smart homes, you talk about crop insurance being monitored remotely. All of these things are leading to a new phenomenon, I say, that edge computing is the new cloud.
Right.
So does your cloud service partner give you all the access for edge computing, and then allow you to bring back all your assets back and forth between the edge and the cloud and on-premise? So many technology questions are now popping up. So many, I would say, practical, and these are some of the challenging things that the CIOs are actually now grappling with. So while we have options, but we have to be really careful that how we really secure our own structures and assets and benefits, the business benefits out of the technology adoption. It cannot be the new plaything in the hand of the CIO, and it has to bring in the necessary business benefit to the entire industry.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I have another question to you. Maybe within, I think, 30 seconds, you could let me know. Do you think Indian CIOs have some sort of a brainstorming session or a strategy workshop for multi-cloud strategy for the next 3 years, bringing all the business people, understanding the workloads? And is that a trend or a culture is there, or it is something like only IT people, most of the things they do because they feel cloud is something why we need to talk to the business guys? So what is happening in India in general, not about your organization, but in general, I would like to know that.
I think Narottam mentioned it earlier that now the CIO is actually playing a critical role, in deciding the strategy in the boardrooms, and that is something which I have also been seeing for the at least for the last 12 to 15 months. That the voice of the CIO is now a very, very critical voice. Of course, accentuated by the fact that the pandemic has put their CIO under the arc light. And the entire business, starting from the board to the CEO, and everyone is looking at the CIO. Boss, give me some solution. Typically, if you look at my industry, how insurance is sold. Insurance is basically a financial product. It is a complex product. It is very difficult to sell. In fact, it has been said that selling insurance is one of the most difficult things in the world. So here, the agent typically approaches the customer for selling the policy. What happens if the customer is not able to meet the agent in the first place, and the pandemic has triggered that situation? So
All right.
if the product itself is so difficult to sell, and on top of that you are simply putting that wall between the seller and the buyer, you need to have a process to get over it. And that is where the CIOs overnight became the superheroes in each organization.
Very good.
And
That's good.
they might not be wearing the red cape, but I can tell you, I assure you, but they went ahead with a lot of responsibility. Just to bring one small example, on the night of 23rd March 2020, every single gentleman sitting in this room was worrying about how to move the desktops out of their offices to their respective users' homes, because we never knew that what's going to hit us, what's going to happen tomorrow. And then subsequently, we have seen how much water has flown under the bridge in the last 18 months or so. Right. And here we are. So at least in my industry, CIOs are now being looked at as demigods. And I am at least enjoying my position under the sun. And of course, I can see that this trend is going to stay, because as Khushru also mentioned, that people have gone back to their homes. And in fact, today I am headquartered in Bangalore, but my entire team is sitting. You can name any state, and they are sitting in each of these states, all the way, to Srinagar, to Northeast, and everywhere. So how do you manage a fabric like that? So that is how that the role of the CIOs is going to become more and more critical.
Thanks, Ayan. I think that's good. So I think CIOs are becoming strategic advisors, digital innovators. But of course, their responsibility, their accountability, their stress levels also goes up because the dependency on CIOs goes up a lot coming years. Thank you so much. Okay, Aju, just I would like to ask you one question. Today, like Ayan mentioned, there is a strategic intent required and a lot of business parameters to be considered. CIO is called for, I think, to discuss on the various aspects of the technology solutions and all. So why multi-cloud is required? We have been talking about, okay, somebody might say, I go with Salesforce for CRM, somebody may go with Oracle, somebody go with custom-built applications, somebody AWS, somebody Google, somebody IBM. That's where the multi-cloud environment, it is a very complex. It's not easy. Okay, there might be so many advantages are there. Why it is becoming key pillar now? And why we are inviting too much of complexity? Managing one or two clouds itself is a big challenge now. And we are saying, okay, go as many clouds as you want from the heterogeneous vendors. How the integration challenges will be there, what is that management challenges will be there, and why it has become a key pillar in terms of business resilience and transformation.
Sure, thanks, VSR. That's a great question, and part of this question was answered by some of my esteemed panelists before as well, right? Today, the question is not why. The question is, how do we leverage multi-cloud to actually grow and address the business opportunity and the strategy that the organizations are now looking forward to, right? Now, it is a known fact that and it is an established fact that cloud is adopted by most of the organization to various effects. The most common effect was to try and reduce cost because of virtualization, managing of your own data center and versus managing somebody else managing that, spreading the cost over a larger customer base, etc. That was one of the primary drivers, right? But over the period of time, right, what cloud has done is added some features and functionalities to businesses, right? Not only to workloads, to businesses, in terms of agility, in terms of faster response, right? In terms of creating new products, right? In terms of leveraging data, right? And data came up again and again in every panelist discussion, right? Now, earlier, right, we used to have copious amounts of data residing in the organization, right? We still have, right? But now the difference is that organizations now, irrespective of how far that data goes back to, now want to leverage insights out of that data, because managing and churning insights of that data is giving rise to the new ways of working for businesses per se. Now coming to multi-cloud, why multi-cloud? I mean, if I break multi-cloud into two aspects, right? One was that initially multi-cloud used to be the term referred to when you used to have your own private cloud, and then you're moving to something like a hyperscaler, right? But that term has changed, and now it has become a hybrid cloud terminology, right? Having your own private cloud enterprise, and then you leveraging some workloads onto a hyperscaler, right? And then what's happened is that over a period of time, as organizations create new products, they started to realize that no one single platform, right, is most optimized to run all the workloads in the enterprise, right? It is difficult to find one platform that will be most optimized to run every application that is residing in your enterprise. You will have an ERP application. You will have a number of backend applications. You will have number of financial applications, right? And there are a lot of hyperscalers that provide good products, good packages, but they are limited to certain areas of excellence, right? Now, as an enterprise, right, as a CIO, a CTO, you would want to deliver the best platform and for your own organizational success, right? And that's where this multi-cloud thing came about. Now, this also came about with some challenges, as my esteemed panelists mentioned, in terms of shadow IT, sprawl. These challenges are there, but without getting stuck on those challenges, multi-cloud is here to stay. Just to discuss some figures, right? 60% of organizations in India, enterprise organizations in India, are already on a multi-cloud kind of a environment, right? Whether they like it or not, whether they know about it or not, about 60% of enterprises are already on multi-cloud kind of an environment, right? Now, a lot of that under the watchful eyes of CIOs, a lot of that shadow IT, right? 90+% of enterprises are already on hybrid cloud environments, right? We spoke about multiple applications. For example, the a very valid point that was brought out by Ayan in between was the prevalence of edge cloud now, right? Especially in the current conditions and all. The importance of edge cloud is growing, because now the processing of data needs to be as close as possible to the point of generation of that data, right? Because you are improving agility, right? You are improving speed to market with the insights to that data, right? So that's why people are moving on to multi-cloud. People are having despite the complexity, despite the challenges that multi-cloud brings in terms of control, in terms of visibility, people are moving on to the enterprises are moving on to these solutions, right? And what the hyperscalers are also evolving, right? Just 30 seconds more. Hyperscalers earlier were very protective about the products and the services. They still are, to a large extent. They still are about the services that are offered out of their platform, and they would try to restrict movement in and out of their platform as much as possible, as any client would, or as any service provider would, right? But now they realize that it is important for them to have an open environment, right? And as much as possible for the clients to leverage the best of their services, right? It is not only about protecting the clients that you have on your platform, It is about how you can be more inviting to clients that are there on other platforms as well, right? So if you don't open up, right, then you're not able to share your platform with, clients that are there on other platforms as well. So you see the prevalence of large, microservices based applications on open platform like Kubernetes or OpenShift, right? Multiple technologies that are coming in to enable hybrid like AWS Outposts, Azure Arc, Google Anthos, and IBM Cloud Satellite, right? Which are establishing, edge cloud solutions for customers, right? So, the hyperscalers are also evolving to the need of multi-cloud and opening up and addressing some of these client requirements.
Thank you so much, Aju. I think you justified very well why this multi-cloud is required. So I want to just delve into a little bit more with Vishal. So Vishal, I assume that I'm a CEO of the company. I don't understand too much about these technical jargons. So I have few fundamental questions like, okay, if multi-cloud is there, can I improve my revenue? Can I improve my operational efficiency? Can I get more customers? Can I increase my revenue? Can I introduce the product into the market at a faster pace than what I am doing today? So what is your answer? I mean, I want to just listen that perspective from you. So how you convince the business guys that multi-cloud is the best approach? What is that business value we can deliver? And inviting so much of complexity, of course, Aju might convince that, don't worry, we have tools to manage them.
See, just now I was hearing Ayan, what he was talking about. I would say the concept of buffet and concept of a la carte will always be there. Initial, if you look at 10, 15 years back, people moved into cloud because of cost. But now everybody within an organization who is at the stakeholder level or who are accountable for business, even from a technology standpoint, we are becoming more business savvy. We are looking at our own business. We are into, let's say, if I talk about our business, we are into financial services. We are more microservices oriented at this point. Not to name any of the cloud provider. If I say every cloud provider has advantages, no one is completely full package. You can't take somebody and you can utilize all their best. At the same time, you have your own approach, whether you are in a platform model or you are in an infrastructure service model. What you want to achieve, you have to show your ROI with respect to business, not with respect to technology. Technology spending will be there. Maybe there are technologies where you spend more. We were early proponent of virtualization some 10 years back. We spent enough money on that, but we leveraged out by extrapolating the infrastructure. So it's not that every management or every company at the senior level is looking at a very quick kind of money making or revenue generation. You invest in technology, take out the best, provided your business objectives and your product or services are very explicit, very clear. So with respect to our business, let's say our pricing is very dynamic. We take pricing in-house also. We take outside country also. We take 2 more providers in India also. At the same time, some algorithms, some automation is happening at the background. Our sales force is deployed across India. Now, a latency, small latency can impact business. Why? Every consumer is very finicky when it comes to India. I mean, maybe a 5-minute of lag or 10-minute of lag or 1-day lag, somehow decision sometimes goes positive, sometimes goes negative. So it all depends on all 5 questions which you asked me. These needs to be documented with respect to what exactly you are trying to achieve.
Correct.
When do you want to invest in some technology is more important than why do you want to do this? That needs to come first for maybe not long-term plan like 10 years or 5 years, but at least you are going to stay in that plan for at least 1 year. Because you need to see the end result, you need to be more outcome based. And that's why when I say that all cloud providers have different advantages. If I say whether you are going in a container mode or whether you're going in a Docker mode or whether you are going in a virtual machine mode, you're trying to use the best of the services. You're trying to, let's not reinvent the wheel of AI. Algorithms are built up in some, algorithms are not built in someone. So it all depends on your own proof of concept before you move into that.
Sure. Okay. So I think it's like best of the best. It's like not one cloud is something like better for everything. Like
See,
Anne mentioned, yeah.
I would agree. I'm just barging out. What Azu spoke about, that 60% people moved into cloud without knowing whether they should go to cloud or not.
Right.
The price was one of the parameters. But slowly every CTO and CIO, they know where they are driving their organizations to. Because finally day zero will come when they will face their stakeholder budgets.
Right. Right. That's where strategy come into picture. Yeah.
Yes, and that day your management will say, boss, you had been given this quantum of budget. I mean, everything was completely freeway, but this is not achieved. So
Right.
it's not I would say.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the well justification by Aju and yourself on having the multi-clouds, like as we talked about, each cloud has its own specialty and they bring in a lot of value so that our business value will go up when we have the multiple clouds, but they have to be managed well. That I will talk a bit later. So that's where I think, Khushru, when you bring this multi-clouds environment, I think Ayan and I think Narottam also talked about this shadow IT. Aju also mentioned. I think now they replaced or renamed. Of course, we have some of the industry analysts like a citizen IT. Shadow is not a good word, so they are calling it as a citizen IT and all. So if knowingly or unknowingly 60% move to cloud, it's a bit dangerous for me without strategy. If this is a strategy, it's okay. But if it is something like business units also, let us go ahead. It is a small cloud. Why I need to involve the CIO or IT? A lot of clouds coming into picture without much of a strategy. And second, what is this cloud burst and cloud sprawl emerging because of the multi-cloud? That's the biggest risk needs to be managed. So can you share, please, some of the thoughts on that?
Which is the worst of the two, cloudburst or cloud sprawl? I think that needs to be reviewed very categorically. And you talk about citizen IT, or shadow IT, or you can even talk about digital twins. All of this, I think, has its own merits and demerits. Okay, the fact of the matter is shadow IT, whatever you call it, has long been dissuaded from multiple organizations. And I think with the cloud, you have to be very careful about this, because the cloud bursts of bursting from a private cloud to the public cloud, okay, without strong controls, cadence, and governance, is definitely going to have its own impact on the costs. Ultimately, the bottom line is the cost to the organization. So I think there are certain tools and techniques which we have to use, and one of them definitely is something which we call as the distributed load balancer. And it has got to be controlled very clearly and specifically. So bubble out, bubble down, threshold management, okay, whatever you say, it has got to be done with a clear understanding of what it is that is required. Otherwise, it is going to have a massive cost implications to the very business which you're running. Now, I'll go back to the fact which I said, that whether it's cloud burst or cloud sprawl, cybersecurity has got to be maintained behind this. Because the fact of the matter is the entire governance behind it is very important, and this is what the policies have got to be highlighted. And I'll tell you how we do it. We have cloud computing policies, which we embed with a central clearinghouse. And the central clearinghouse is to a large extent, I would say, the CIO. But that does not mean the CIO is the judge, the jury, and the execution. Okay, it has got to be controlled in a manner which provides the business the ability to explore new things, but it's controlled within the fact that it just cannot be exacerbated the way they want it.
Right.
So I think it's all about how the cloud burst and the cloud sprawl is maintained, ensuring that the benefits are provided so that people can explore. But at the same time, it does not become a complete negative impact to the business. And that's why I think certain techniques have got to be ensured. And that's how we do it today. Because I believe cloud sprawl has a much bigger impact in the organization than just a cloud burst. Cloud burst can be controlled, but cloud sprawl, if not controlled properly, will have a massive, massive impact on the cost, because
Sure.
ultimately that's a direct cost to the bottom line of the business.
Right. So, okay, that's great. So I'll probably reserve one question for Aju. I will come back to that. But prior to that, Narottam, I think if you look at how the software applications got evolved. So when we probably all started the career, we used to talk about mostly, as I mentioned, process automations. Okay, it could be IBM, mini frame, client server, internet. Today, we talk about mobile, whatever, all our process automations. That's one aspect. And we are talking about emotions now, providing unforgettable moments of experience. There are new type of applications emerging for customers or employees engagement. Then the things, Internet of Things, they are a different set of applications. Then we need a lot of data is there. Then we have to utilize that to provide the better insight or foresight. In this context, how you think multi-cloud will help to deliver these applications at the speed, time to market, without much delays? Do you see any advantage having multi-cloud in designing and developing and releasing these applications or products?
Before we go there, yes, I know there's so many interesting topics. I was holding myself back. I know when you talk about
I know.
all those.
We need 2 hours.
I'm very thankful to all my friends and colleagues. They set a very great insights around this, and there's a lot of learning in that space. Just before we go to this question, only one thing which I have. When you're talking about how will you convince the CEO when he say why should I go for multi-cloud? So the CEO doesn't ask now which technology or which cloud. He asks,
Exactly.
can you help me to get a revenue optimization of cost and accelerate my business? If so, there are different kind of companies today in the environment. Let's say somebody is looking for sustenance, somebody is looking for growth, somebody is having it. So all that has to link with the strategy what you have. So in 2017, I joined a company which I left some time back. We did our multi-cloud implementation in 2018, and we moved from 22% to I think 72% in a year in our cloudification journey, and it was pure
Right.
multi-cloud. And in this entire space, there was nowhere the CEO or the business had asked me that where are you going. They asked us, we want to grow 10x, can you help us to do that? So there is a situation, there's a context, and context has to get converted to strategy. And that's where the role come of a CIO, who needs to be from this one key skill is around understanding of your business. If you
Exactly.
understand your business, then you can convert your strategy to the business strategy. Otherwise, you will be on the North Pole and they will be on the South Pole, and you continue to fight to each other. You will never get the result. Now, question to what you said, I think I answered it bit in this maybe not directly but indirectly. But yes, multi-cloud has a very key role to play. Why? Earlier you used to buy product, now you buy platforms, and there's a lot of frugality which has to come into play now when you do this particular aspect, right? And you have to have a combination. So let's say, for example, and it is again depend upon people to people. Let's say I'm in a business, like Ayan is in a business. If Ayan go and say he will go for anything and everything on a subscription-based model, I think he can't run his business because his tech cost, where let's say he has to do insurance to 1 lakh people in country every quarter, and he said I will have a subscription-based application where people go and open it and look for it. So he can't do that, right? And at the same time, at enterprise level, he need to have the best of the breed because they need to be globalized, they need to have a scale, still a stable experience. So that's where you have to identify where what has to play a role. So multi-cloud definitely has a key role into this. As far as the speed of execution you spoke about, yes, cloud has that role to play because look at the platforms today. Earlier, when you used to build an application, you had a database for application, then you're looking for a mobile side of it, then you're looking for web interface, then UI UX. Now you are seeing all this coming as a backbone, and you just need to apply. The applied skills are more than the tech skill which you are needed from a business context perspective, and that's where cloud is helping you from reducing the cycle time of application where you used to develop it in 9 months to probably into the week's time, and then still the number of changes what you need to make even in an enhancement case. Consider an old environment. If you have to make one code change, I don't know at how many places you were supposed to do it. Today,
Okay.
you don't worry about that particular aspect in that context, what it was earlier. The integration point, another thing may have increased, but there's a simplification underneath the platform.
So I just want to interrupt you and ask a question here, if you're okay. Is it because the cloud providers are giving some tools, algorithms, APIs, and infrastructural benefits, and also the integrated whatever now dev, sec, ops, these elements are coming? Is it a reason why we can increase the speed of applications development or deployment? What is the reason why the speed goes up?
So there is one thing very clearly. One side is this, if you look at this low code, no code, right, which is coming into picture. Earlier, you have to write the entire code and everything. You have to run. Now, right now, it is more of a logic and workflows. What you need, a little bit skill around coding will help you to reduce the overall time frame of the cycle time. And yes, definitely the stack which is coming by the provider is definitely making a lot of sense. So
Okay.
if you look at, I don't know about India, it is coming in. But if you look at any low-code, no-code platform in an app of modernization space across the globe, their evaluation and their business is growing like anything. You can name the company. I will not name them here because that's not going to make sense. But any partner or any cloud provider who has that platform, look at their size of business in app modernization with the low-code, no-code. And if someone is startup, their evaluation has gone multi-x in last few years, and it's
Okay.
because provide ease of use, speed of execution, faster deployment to the customer or the employee, and the experience put together. So that's happening.
Okay, thank you, Narottam. So, in the interest of the time, probably we might need to expedite the process of discussion. So, Aju, very quickly, now we understand the benefits at the higher level. We also understood the risks, like Khushru mentioned about the cloud burst, cloud sprawl, and we talk about citizen IT, the danger of having multiple ITs and all, and security is very important. So different strategies might probably help us to suggest and select few different clouds, maybe process related like SaaS applications, that is one cloud, and then infrastructure related and PaaS, the platform as a service. There are different types of clouds are there, give different type of benefits. If AI and ML is there, one cloud might be pretty better. In that scenario, how I manage them? How I minimize the cloud burst? How I minimize the without having proper governance, anybody can go and purchase the clouds in the business side, or how I can manage the cloud sprawl, how I can manage the security in a central place.
Let me just rephrase that, VSR. Thank you. That's a great question, right? We may not be able to, now in this situation, try to manage a multi-cloud kind of an environment, right? We are today, in a situation where we are trying to encourage a multi-cloud kind of an environment, even though it brings some complexities, because that's what is going to be the difference between success, agility, rolling out new products for enterprises and organizations, right? Now, over a period of time, a lot of things have changed, right? Ayan spoke about evolution at the beginning of this discussion, right? Change is happening in multiple dimensions at the same time today, right? The way you consume, a consumer consumes services is changing, right? It is more of digital self-service. It is API driven. The way service providers are delivering IT is also changing. Now we are talking about just picking up from where Narottam said about low code, no code. We are talking about DevOps, DevSecOps, continuous delivery, right? And now coming to your question on multi-cloud management, right? The way we govern IT, services is also changing, right? Now we are more towards data-driven compliances, more on automation, GitOps workflow, etc. Right? So there is a lot of things that are changing for the CIO in the current environment of multi-cloud, and that is where newer products for multi-cloud management are coming into market, right? Now, multi-cloud manager, not only gives you simple things like single pane visibility, right? It also helps you control a lot of through the governance mechanisms, control a lot of uninitiated sprawl in the enterprise for cloud, right? Now you would want to, encourage, multi-cloud kind of an environment in your enterprise, right? But at the same time, you would want it to be, a controlled, encouragement, not an uncontrolled kind of an encouragement. And both Khushru sir and Ayan mentioned about security in between earlier, right? When they spoke about sprawl, they spoke about, the industry that they are in. Now, this is also a very crucial aspect when you come to, public clouds and hyperscalers, multi-cloud, edge cloud kind of an environment, right? Most of these platforms initially, are very, secure in terms of the services that they provide, right?
Right.
But the organizations need to play a very big role into the products that they build on these platforms, because the hyperscalers, I mean, it's kind of a joint responsibility. The hyperscaler will manage the security of the platform, but the product security will be the responsibility of the organization that is building the product, right?
Understood.
And now what's happening is that, let me try and bring in a few IBM points in here, right? Right?
Yeah,
Where
I
we
just
are
want
trying
to
to
just interrupt you. So what I request is, can you share with some few case studies, 2 or 3,
exactly,
with a few
exactly.
examples?
That's what I was trying to get to, right?
I request you to 2-3 minutes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be very quick on this, right? Because and this is where what you're seeing now, the evolution of hyperscalers is industry based cloud solution, right? So you would have heard, sometime towards the end of last year, IBM announced IBM Cloud for Financial Services, and now Microsoft is announcing Azure Cloud for Financial Services, right? The reason for doing this is that different industries are and as multi-cloud and as cloud adoption is growing, different industries have their unique needs in terms of how they want to deploy applications, how they have to meet their compliances, etc., right? And that is why now the next evolution in public cloud is industry based cloud, right? You will have clouds for manufacturing, you'll have cloud for telecom, you'll have cloud for government, you'll have cloud for financial services, right? Everybody is moving fast to financial services because that's the most evolving industry at this point in time, in terms of security, in terms of data sensitivity, etc., right? And that's why you're seeing a lot of investment around that.
Yeah.
Confidential computing is growing very fast, right? Data now is not only required to be encrypted at rest. Data now is looking to be encrypted at the time of processing as well. That's the kind of security that hyperscalers are building in, right? We were earlier talking about bring your own keys. Now we are talking about keep your own keys, right? Even if you generate keys on the hyperscale environment, we are enabling customers to generate and keep their keys with them and not on the platform, so that they are more secure.
Now,
Exactly.
Narottam, I have a question to you. It's not like all organizations are in multi-cloud. It's not like all organizations are big enough to go to multi-cloud, probably the way we have been talking here. So still, there might be some organizations who want to get into that particular area. What do you think the new skills, new roles, new culture they have to establish if they want to move to the multi-cloud environment or a structure?
So let's start with the skill what we were talking about. So I'll go back to the same question what you were asking. The conventional way of working in the IT is not going to work in the era of digital. And what Ayan and other were talking that, and in fact I was also saying that we are part of boardroom. We only are part of the boardroom because our business understanding are improving rather than the tech understanding. So that is the first skill what has to come onto the table. You cannot be talking of the cloud inside the strategic discussion. You have to talk about the business challenges, and that's where you have to see what you have to bring. So that is one piece from where you ignite the discussion of cloud coming into play, that what is your strategy in the company. Now come to your question that many companies may not have that skill and that area. So skill is becoming a challenge for everyone across, and skill has 3 areas largely. If you look at people who have an experience of building data center design and all, you will find them in numbers you can count. You can't even count that, right? If you talk about basic conventional skills, you will find people. But the latest skills which are coming in from tech side, the way of those skill enhancement is changing and people have to change around. And what is happening, and I'll go to this. Lot many people who are coming from freshers and while like GETs and MTs from the colleges, the way things are changing, I'll share one example with you. Skill scarcity is a challenge for the industry across the globe, not in India. We are into IT services business. We know it more than anyone else, right? And it's a direct hit to revenue at the top line if you're not able to fulfill a customer and you lose the business because of skill. And it is for including us who can also talk about it. Now, what is happening? Just one case study. The companies which are in OEM side, and probably Aju also have this information, IBM might be doing too. They are creating a very, very specific content. They are attaching it to the certifications and they are going to universities, right? That we want to give this course to your people. And while they are doing their education till the engineering degree final, so it is very prevalent in the global environment. Probably I think it is coming in India too, where all these big partners like, IBM, Microsoft, Oracle and all different shape, they are trying to do it. That they go to the universities, selected one from where they source their people, that, we will give you the course. So that is one where skills are getting improved. But yes, as a skill overall, there's a problem. Second skill problem is that even if you have a skill of going to cloud, adopting cloud is a challenge for you from the people, that if you have a conventional people in the company, they know how to work in an old environment. Let's say an example. If somebody is very comfortable in working in Excel and he's very good in making report and his, fingers work better than anything else. And when you say, now I'm going to give you a BI tool for the visualization, initially you will find a lot of hiccups for that guy to move towards that because he's not comfortable, because he is doing that thing from last 15 years. So that's where also you have to have the skill enhancement, and that's where the culture play an important role, that how you are bringing a data culture, how from top to bottom you are talking about, no, I will review the information from system, not from the presentation what you'll send to me for review. How you are changing way of doing the reviews. Are you going to continue to do reviews on a weekly, quarterly, monthly basis? You're saying that there's no review, it's a real-time review, at least from the business performance perspective, not from strategy point of view. Exactly. And that's where increasing the skill enhancement of the people who are going to use the technology is much more important than the tech side, which anyway is a key. And that's where culture play an important role. So all this needs to be settled well. And yes, that's where most of the transformation fails. If you're not able to enhance the skill of the people who are going to leverage the tech rather than people who are implementing the tech.
I think you raised a very important point. We have been into tech. Maybe I am from the other side, not from the roles what you have been. Of course, you also probably from the service provider side. So a lot of times we see that a lot of investment we made when it comes to the reviews, it is a quarterly review, monthly review, big PPTs. And why we don't use the systems what we built to get the data and see the performance, right? I think that's $1 million question. I think that's a very, very important point. My question is, what are the 5 steps you suggest for anybody who wants to move to multi-cloud? This is the step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, or step 5 that will ensure them moving in the right direction.
The first question which has to be asked is why and what. Why do you need to have a multi-cloud strategy? What are the benefits you're going to get? Okay, as long as you are able to answer these 2 questions, I think the remaining parts will come through very clearly. I think there are companies which try and adopt multi-cloud strategies, not because they understand a multi-cloud strategy, it's because of the product nature or the services which our multi-cloud provides. And I think therefore the most important thing is prepare your business case correctly. Prepare the understanding of why you need a multi-cloud strategy. Now, this does not pertain to the fact that if you're utilizing a SaaS-based service, it can matter. But if, for example, a multi-cloud strategy is reviewed, the first question is ask the why and the what. If the why and the what are answered, then of course, the preparation, the deployment, and the control then become the second, third, and fourth part of it. And of course, the cost has got to be ultimately initiated, that the cost of, because all this cost is OPEX related cost. There's no CAPEX involved in it.
Correct.
So the OPEX brings in the transparency, which provides, I think, a better business case visibility for the business. and even to make the board understand why a capex. Remember, the traditional boards prefer a capex because it's a 3-year, 5-year depreciation. It has its own merits. But when you bring in the OPEX part of it, it's all completely transparent, and therefore it also hits the bottom line within the year of operations.
Sure.
So I think cost optimization should be as clear as possible. But once the steps are made, the preparation, the control, the scale, and the optimization is made, the most important thing is execute.
Execute.
All right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Execution is the game changer. Yeah. Understand. So for that, I think, as Narottam said, we need skills, we need a culture, we need a structure, and we need a monitoring mechanism, and we need the tools, what Aju suggested. All these things. Thank you so much, friends. I think this is a wonderful discussion. I think we try to justify why, what, how, when the multi-cloud is required in a very, I think, probably we demystified, I can say. Thank you so much for joining this wonderful session. Thank you.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.